Hi, welcome to today's webinar on WeChat recruiting in China. My name is Beecher, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ajinga. By way of background, Ajinga is a cloud-based recruiting technology company helping bridge global recruiting systems with local recruiting channels and candidates here in China. So when we're talking about recruiting in China, the topic of WeChat always comes up because it's such a big part of everyday life here. And it's not surprising that it's becoming an important channel for the purposes of recruiting and employer branding too. So this webinar is really just a quick look at what WeChat is and understand how it's being leveraged by companies for the purposes of branding and talent acquisition. So WeChat is China's leading mobile app, accounting for 29% of all time spent on mobile apps here in China. It's known locally as the app for everything. So yes, it is a social media, but it is so much more than that. And so before I get into its deployment for recruiting purposes, I wanted to share with you a little bit about how it's being used a bit more in general. So this is a screenshot of my WeChat account. And you can see at its most basic level, it's a messaging system. So I can have chats either one-on-one with my friends and colleagues, or I can participate in group chats as well. So it's clearly a messaging platform. But more than that, it also is a platform that allows companies to directly engage with their clients and consumers. So what we're looking at here is the Starbucks China official WeChat account. And once every week, 4 times a month, they're able to push notifications, kind of like a digital mobile magazine with articles to their followers. And at the bottom of the page here, you can see a number of navigation buttons with links to learn more about or understand more about Starbucks' different products and services here in the China market. Now, if we navigate through them, there are a number of different options to learn more. For example, this is to download the Starbucks app where I can order my coffee. But this particular button here is the Join Us or the Careers button where I can find out more information about joining Starbucks. But if I was to tap on, for example, this particular article which they have pushed out to me, I would be able to read about maybe the latest monthly or seasonal Starbucks beverages and understand maybe how other people have related to these articles. So I can see their comments and how many times this article's been upvoted. I can also see in this particular case, the article's been read by over 100,000 folks here in China. So this is a great platform for which Starbucks can really engage with in a dynamic way with their potential consumers and customers. In addition to engaging with customers with information, it's also very much a mobile commerce platform. So in fact, I can buy a Starbucks and have it sent to my office through the WeChat account, but I can also buy a range of other products and services, in fact, a vast range of different products and services from coffee, as I just mentioned, all the way up to relatively expensive items like iPhones. But it doesn't stop there. In fact, WeChat is such an important part of overall life that like Instagram leaders and influencers around the world, we also have WeChat influencers as well. And this particular influencer or fashion blogger was able to partner with the Mini Cooper brand and sold 100 cars within just 5 minutes. And let me tell you, the Mini Cooper is quite an expensive vehicle in the China market. So it's a range of different ways which companies have been able to leverage WeChat to engage with consumers and ultimately to have a very effective, very powerful mobile commerce platform. In addition to mobile commerce, they also have a very wide-ranging bicycle hailing system, so I can see where the local bicycles are near my office, and I can take that from point A to point B. And just like Uber, China has a car hailing app by the name of Didi, and that's integrated into WeChat as well. So I can get my taxi or my limousine through that feature within WeChat. But I believe that the payments, the digital wallet feature of WeChat is really the killer application. So I can make online payments on websites. I can make offline payments. So if I walk into the local 7-Eleven and get my drink, I can use my WeChat digital wallet to display a QR code, which the storekeeper will scan with their device, and then I'll have effectively paid for it. So very frequently now, we don't need to leave home with our wallets because all of our transactions can be done through WeChat. I can even send my friends money to maybe split the lunch bill. I can pay my government utilities, electricity, gas, water, etc. I can buy wealth management products, and I can even make charitable donations. The list goes on. I can book an airplane ticket, a railway ticket. I can book accommodation, buy some tickets for the movie. I can order restaurant home delivery through WeChat. If I needed a manicure at home, if I needed or had even in fact had a pet cat, I could have that pet cat shampooed at home too. So the list really does go on. And that's why it's known as the app for everything. And that's why 29% of all time spent on an app on a mobile device in China is spent on WeChat. There are now 1.15 billion, that's billion with a B, monthly active users of WeChat. And 34% of all internet data traffic in China is generated by WeChat. Now, if we compare that to a similar social media platform outside of China, such as Facebook, according to some recent information, Facebook only accounts for 14% of all internet data traffic in the United States. And so it's effectively double that amount here in China because of the scope and the range of different features and services that are integrated into WeChat. We talked about Starbucks having an official WeChat account where they could have a relationship with their consumers and customers. There are 20 million of these official WeChat accounts now, and this number is growing all the time. And companies really are embracing this as a great way to have a better relationship with their consumers and customers. 50% of users spend at least 90 minutes per day on WeChat in China, compared to an average for a Facebook user of around 22 minutes per day. And 90% of Chinese professionals prefer WeChat for workplace communications over emails, over traditional telephoning, and increasingly instead of face-to-face communication as well. And as we talked about, WeChat has a great tool for companies to interact with their clients through the official company account. But there are also a version of WeChat called WeChat Work, which is for internal communications with your existing employees. So there are now 2.5 million internal WeChat Work accounts and 60 million registered employees using this function of WeChat. And so, for example, I could use WeChat for my time and attendance system. I could use WeChat for my expense reimbursement platform. I can even send files and arrange client meetings through WeChat Work. So it really is an incredibly sophisticated ecosystem for managing all aspects of work and life. But what does that really mean? So what? So just like WeChat represents an unparalleled sales and marketing opportunity for companies, it also represents an unparalleled channel for talent acquisition and employer branding. And what is then the prevalence of WeChat recruiting for talent acquisition and employer branding? Well, Ajinga recently teamed up with the American Chamber of Commerce here in Shanghai and had a survey of over 200 multinationals within the membership. And of those 200 multinationals that participated, 59% indicated that they had already a dedicated HR WeChat account in addition to their corporate account with their customers and clients. Now, in addition to that, 66% of companies had done what Starbucks has done, which is insert a join us or careers button within their corporate account. So WeChat has then very quickly become an important channel for recruiting, talent acquisition, and employer branding. And what's the satisfaction? Well, it's getting better every year. So when we first started doing the survey with the American Chamber of Commerce 4 years ago, it was less than probably 40% were satisfied. But now systems have changed and practices have changed and evolved to ensure that the talent acquisition team is able to deliver a very sophisticated experience. And as a result, they're getting much better feedback from candidates and much better impact in terms of application flow. So 71% of companies now indicate that they're satisfied with their WeChat recruiting initiatives. So let's have a look at how WeChat can be used in the overall candidate workflow. So if we can imagine that maybe I've been sent something from my friend via WeChat, or I'm following the official HR or recruiting account of one of these companies, or in fact, I see a QR code. Maybe that QR code is displayed in the window of a retail store, or it's printed on posters which are put around in an office environment. But whatever entrance point, whether it's being sent from a friend, following an account, or scanning that QR code, I then come through to a consistent experience where the first thing I can see is perhaps what we call the employer branding pages of the organization, where I can learn who is this company and what makes them unique as an employer of choice. From that point, the candidate can navigate to a dynamic and searchable job list. And from that job list, they're able to see branded job descriptions around the positions that they're interested in. They can apply using a social sign-in feature, and then perhaps answer some additional supplemental questions, such as, are you willing to relocate, that help probably with the recruiter's screening of the various applications. And then that essentially, within just the space of 2 to 3 minutes, they're able to complete their application. So this is very much in line or similar to the mobile commerce experience that I would have within WeChat if I was to buy a phone or some other product within the WeChat environment. Because first and foremost, every user of WeChat is a consumer, and they bring that consumer mindset, and they bring those consumer expectations that things will be intuitive, things will be quick, things will be fast and efficient. So we need to make the application experience to be very efficient, to be very intuitive, and most importantly, to be very quick. So let's look at some of the features and functions of best-in-class WeChat recruiting approaches. First of all is the use of what we call custom landing pages. So these are landing pages which help the candidates navigate to the part of the business that's most relevant to them. So in Bulgaria's case, they've split it up into different functions such as sales, marketing, business support. For Lululemon, it's in Chinese here, you can see these are positions for the store, and then these are positions for the office. And for Apple, they've in fact created more of a mini site where you can read a range of different aspects and angles about the Apple retail experience here in China. From these custom landing pages, they're also very much related with what we're calling employer branding pages. So employer branding pages are the WeChat equivalent of your careers page on perhaps your websites, and they help communicate to the candidates about what makes you unique or special as an employer of choice. So they can feature text, they can feature imagery, slideshows, and video. And of course, they need to be set up that match in a way which matches your organization's brand guidelines and your organization's visual identity. From those employer branding pages, we want to drive candidates through to a dynamic job list. So providing candidates with intuitive search features to help them quickly find the right position for them is very, very important. And one of the ways that organizations do that is to deploy what we call geotag technology. So if I was to open up, in this particular case, the eBay recruiting page within the WeChat account, I would be able to see the nearest physical working location of eBay in China is only 10, almost 11 kilometers away from my current physical location right now. So displaying the nearest physical working location of the organization at the top of the list just takes away that unnecessary extra step to search by geographic location. And in a country the size of China, where it's so huge and the distances are so vast, understanding what roles are in my city is very important. The job descriptions also another very important part of the mobile and WeChat application experience. So job descriptions should be clearly branded and aligned with your company's marketing guidelines and their visual identity. And instead of just a text-based job description, leading clients, and this is an example of a barista role here at Starbucks, they've inserted very nice imagery, which again reflects what makes Starbucks unique or what makes them special as an employer of choice. Of course, the language is also very important, and ideally with your WeChat system, the language of the job description should default to the language setting of the user's mobile device. So obviously, mostly candidates in China have their language setting on their device set to Chinese, so the job descriptions will display in Chinese. But many of the returnee Chinese or Chinese that have studied overseas and since come back to China to continue their careers, they do have English language setting on their phones. And so defaulting to English is a nice way to differentiate yourselves as a multinational and international organization. Integrated map features using the geolocation tools that we talked about on the previous slide are a great way to help allow your candidates to understand the location of your workplace. In cities like Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Chengdu, these are big cities with tens of millions of people. So commuting from one side of the city to the other is kind of a big deal. So showing candidates very clearly the physical working location on a map enables them to navigate successfully to the interview and understand their potential daily commute if they were working for your organization. Now, we talked about the expectations of candidates of being driven by their consumer experiences within the WeChat environment. So at the application point where we're trying to capture the candidate's resume details, we really don't want to make it difficult for them to apply to the position. And what that means is we need to provide social sign-in features, which allows the candidates to use their existing resume from any of the popular local job websites to apply quickly and easily within just 2 to 3 minutes. So provide candidates with the option to import their profile from popular job boards like 51job.com or LinkedIn, or even allow them to import from their iCloud or Android folder. This then successfully shortens the application time, which improves very clearly, we've seen from the data, application completion rates. We also talked briefly in the workflow on one of the previous slides about screening questions. So you may want to have different screening questions for different roles to help your recruiters then screen out the appropriate candidates. So candidate responses are displayed on the back-end system together with their resume information. And you can even add in automated back-end knockout logic for expedited screening as well, particularly for those high volume roles. The screenshot that you're looking at here is in fact a Starbucks question where they're asking which particular Starbucks store in this city would you be most interested in working at. Now, WeChat is obviously the huge social channel in China, but there are a range of other social channels as well. So we can see this icon, the penguin icon. This is a social media channel also owned by the same holding company as the WeChat company. It's called QQ. And this is very, very popular with high school and university students. So if your target candidate demographic is a younger demographic, then you would want to make sure that your job descriptions are easily searchable from your official recruiting WeChat account into QQ so you can best access them. And this icon here is known as, the social channel here is known as Weibo. It's China's equivalent of Twitter. So it's more of a broadcast type of social media. So we want to ensure, excuse me, that that your WeChat job descriptions and your WeChat account is accessible and easily used within the WeChat environment. But more importantly, or equally importantly, is that it can be shared easily into a range of other local and international social media, so that it's easy for candidates to notify other candidates or your recruiters to use the social channel of choice for the candidates that they're targeting. Okay, let's have a look at some of the best practices for creating a dynamic and vivid candidate experience. And so what we recently saw in the survey is a trend towards integrating employer branding content directly into the job description. And so what we can see here with Lululemon, they've provided some link buttons directly within the job description, so that after I've looked at the job description, which typically talks about what's required or what's expected in that particular role, I can tap on these other buttons such as This Is Us or #JobLove to learn more about why I may want to join Lululemon and what makes them unique as an employer of choice in the retail space here in China. So if I was to tap on one of those buttons, I would be able to see integrated employer branding content. Maybe that's video, could be text or slideshows, which really bring to life the employee experience. And I think they've done something very nice here, which is integrate candidate testimonials, or in fact, employee testimonials, directly into the links to the job description, so that very quickly I can have quite a vivid impression of what it's like. Now, the great thing about this is Lululemon's been able to retain the candidates within the WeChat environment so that they can navigate back very quickly to the job description so that they can continue their application. If in fact we linked them to the career website or some other link outside of the WeChat environment, then it's very difficult for them to navigate back to the job description. And so our application conversion rates are not optimal. Now, obviously, video has been a very popular format for communication, and increasingly important format of communication with the rise of video sharing platforms such as TikTok, known as Douyin here in China. And so very quickly, organizations have been able to adapt to that and integrate video into the job descriptions. Increasingly, we're seeing that young people particularly are not interested in reading very wordy, long job descriptions, especially when video can tell the story in a much more engaging way. So this is an example of Nestle's WeChat account and one particular job description for medical nutrition representative.
One company is advancing the therapeutic role of nutrition, today, for tomorrow, and together.
So this particular video is more of a company marketing video, which is a little bit different from the approach that Starbucks has taken, which is a bit more specifically around the types of careers and what we call a career branding video.
星巴克既能任你停靠，也能成就你的梦想，任你自由探索。
So you can see it's a very different messaging style and format that they've used that speaks to maybe folks that are interested in working within one of the stores here in China. Now, Lear have taken yet another approach, and what they've done is instead of having reasonably high-level video, they've got a very specific day in the life of video or employee
我是
testimonial
王
video.
新月 Cindy。2016年本科毕业，加入里尔财务共享中心培训生项目。经过2年多的轮岗，我从一名负责员工报销的财务。
So this is a very specific video about the AP accountant role. They were having a little bit of challenge to find enough or suitable candidates for this particular role. So they shot this video to provide more understanding about what it's like to work in this particular role. And I should say with great success. Now, the next generation of job descriptions is really to reimagine job descriptions completely. So we talked about the younger generations not that interested in reading very wordy, lengthy job descriptions. So GSK noticed this, and they've reinvented the traditional job descriptions and deployed what they call visual job advertisements. So they've replaced text with images, they've used icons, headlines, and video, and they've been able to capture and hold the attention of job seekers in a way which a traditional job description is just unable to do. They use a feature called Video My Job, in this particular case, to upload the video into the job description. So the candidate can hear from the team leaders. But as you can see here, they're using a very infographic style approach so that I can understand the key points about GSK and the key points about this role. As a result of this initiative, GSK were awarded the Excellence in Innovation in HR Technology at the end of 2019, just last year. So it was a very, very successful campaign, and they're planning to roll this out much more broadly now as well. So that was a quick insight into WeChat recruiting in China. We hope we found it useful. If you've got any questions, please reach out to us, and we'll be sharing a few other webinars in the near future around a range of other topics in the dynamically changing recruiting landscape here in China. Thank you very much.